I remember that day well. I was on my way to the marketplace to meet up with Kleta when the ground began to quake. Panic was quick to set in. No one was sure what was happening. We had never experienced a quake before. Soon, over the screaming and the yelling, a loud hum slowly began to fill the air. Everyone looked up to where the sound was coming from, and what we saw only caused more panic. I naively called it a metal bird at the time. I know better now, of course, but I still find some humour in it, so the name will stay. The metal bird floated to the ground. I, along with those that were either too stunned or too fearless to run, watched as the bird landed. The metal flesh of the bird opened, revealing what was inside. A group of scaleless creatures walked out. They stood almost twice as tall as our largest warrior. One of them was covered in metal and was carrying a... I don't believe I had a silly name for it then, but it was a rifle. The others were less imposing. They began to speak in our language, near perfectly. They said they had come in peace, and that we needed to follow them, that we were in danger, and we had to get into the metal bird. Their words were met with mixed reactions. A few of those that remained, fearless up to this point, tried to attack, calling them demons. The metal creature shot his rifle at the ground in front of the charging few. Thankfully, they were smart enough to stop their assault on the creature that could shoot lasers from his hands. Others in the crowd thought these creatures were gods, and entered the bird without question. Most, including me, just stood there, dumbfounded. It was the quake in increasing intensity that roused the crowd again. Some more entered the bird. Many, unfortunately, ran away. I was one of the runners, but it wasn't because I was terrified of the creatures. I wanted to get in the bird. However, I had to get home first. I had to retrieve something I refused to leave without, and hope to find Kleta along the way. I did not see these creatures as gods like some did, nor did I sense malice in their voice to warrant being called demons. I did not know what they were, or if I could trust these weird-looking beings, but the buildings crumbled around me, making me not want to be on the ground anymore. It really felt like the end times, and the creatures promised safety. I was calling Kleta's name the whole way, but when I made it home, she was not there. I picked up your egg from the nest. I held you close and debated if I should wait to see if Kleta would show. Would it make me a bad mate to leave her behind, or a good one for prioritizing you? I did not know. Maybe I still don't. When I felt another building nearby collapse from the ever-increasing quakes, I decided on getting you to safety. I ran back through the streets to where the bird landed. It was beginning to take flight again. Its skin was still shut. I continued running towards it, but it had already floated just out of my reach. I held you up, pleading to the bird to just take you. I did not care for myself. The bird answered. The metal skin opened again, and one of the creatures, the one covered in metal, reached down. He grabbed me by my horns and pulled me up and into the bird. That did hurt quite a bit, being lifted by my horns, but I am forever indebted to him. His name is Peter, and I am still in contact with him. Because of him, I got to watch you grow. Your mother and father would have been so proud to see the beautiful young lady you are today. As the bird flew higher, I looked out the window, and I watched as the village I was born in became smaller and smaller. As we got higher, I saw towns I've never visited, and continents I never knew existed. It still makes me laugh when I remember my shock at seeing that Crochal was not flat. Most dreadfully, I saw that infernal machine. The device causing the quakes. It was massive. The metal bird we flew in was but a speck of dust compared to it. And it was shooting a bright red beam into our Crochal. I barely understood what was happening at the time. The confusion washing over me was indescribable. My thoughts are racing every which way, and I can hardly remember them all. Yet I remember the horror I felt when I saw that machine. The beam was digging into Crochal's surface, and the crater it created was vast. The fires around the impact spread and grew brighter. I worried for those still on the surface, and was then reminded of Kleta. I turned from the window to look around the small room all of us were standing in, hoping she was there. I never found her. I don't know where she was or why she never made it back home. The marketplace was closer to our house than where the bird landed. She should have been there, and I'll never know why she wasn't. I pulled your egg tight to my chest and hoped she was okay, that a different metal bird would pick her up soon. I hoped that was dashed moments later. As I returned to watching the beam, I saw red lines beginning to spread across Crochal's surface like an infection. The red lines, the cracks, grew wider and more numerous, swallowing entire forests and cities into their depths. Then, Crochal shattered. As I said, I did not understand much back then, but I understood that. I couldn't believe it, but I understood it. Our beautiful planet, our home, destroyed. Its colours draining away as the forests died and the oceans disappeared. Where once stood a wonderful ball of green and blue, now an ugly field of brown rock and debris. I understood that Crochal was gone, and I began to understand that I would never see my Coletta again. The cabin of the shuttle was silent. Our people did not know what to do, and the humans did not know what to say. Some turned to yell at the humans, blaming them for the sudden death of our home. I knew that anger was misplaced. The humans saved us from extinction. Those that yelled just wanted someone, anyone to blame. Unsure of how to deal with the immense sorrow and anger they were feeling. The humans did not yell back or punish those that were threatening them in blind anger. They understood and knew how we felt. They had lost one of their homes as well, a few days prior. A home they called Albion. Even the humans barely knew who these heartless murderers were. First contact was them appearing above Albion and destroying it. The observation outpost that watched over Crochal was not prepared to launch a massive evacuation effort, yet they did so anyway. Many of the humans aboard that station volunteered to aid despite the danger, and they used every ship at their disposal. But it wasn't enough. No amount would have ever been enough. I took one final look at that monstrosity looming over the remains of our home. The space around the shuttle began to bend and stretch, and in an instant the monstrosity and Crochal disappeared from sight. We had left them behind. The metal bird approached the station and docked. It was where the humans had taken all the Crodzil they had rescued. All 26,000 of us. Out of the millions that lived in Crochal, I will be forever grateful that any of us survived the tour. I just wish it was more. The next few days were the most disorienting days of my life. We had just been ripped from our world and thrust into a completely new one. If you told me the day before about aliens, FTL drives or instant messaging, I would have told you that you were insane. It was difficult, yet here we are, despite it all. As for the humans, they did not know what to do with us. The same way we did not know what to do at all. They had their own refugees from Albion to worry about, and now a couple of thousand very confused reptilians. They were still being worshipped by some and cursed out by others. As one of the last villages evacuated, I had the threat of the quakes to motivate me to get into the bird. Most were evacuated in the days leading up to that awful day. Without the immediate threat, many of our people resisted their own rescue. They did not understand the danger that was coming. How could they? It was unfathomable. Regretfully, it even led to a few humans dying at the hands of the very people they were trying to save. I try to remember their names, but my memory is not what it once was. Yet no matter how ungrateful some of us behaved at the time, the humans continued sending more ships, trying to save as many of us as they could, right up until Crochal's final hours. For some of the more resistant ones, the humans were more forceful in their rescue. I casually joke with Peter that the humans kidnapped our people. He doesn't like it, says it's a bad joke, and I agree. It's just funny getting a rise out of him sometimes. The humans took us in, and tried to help us rebuild some of what we'd lost, however impossible of a task that was. We had lost everything. All we had was each other and our memories. All I had was you, but you were enough. Today you'd be hard-pressed to find a Crodzil that is not grateful for what the humans did. In the 13 years since, our small but growing number have lived side by side with the humans. The adjustment was challenging to say the least, for both them and us, but together we made it work. Many now call Earth or Terra Nova home, but as beautiful as those planets are, nothing could ever compare to Crochal. The humans did avenge Crochal and Albion. It took many ships to destroy that cursed weapon, but they reduced it to scraps. They regained their lost territory and more. The war still rages today, but you shouldn't worry yourself about that now. Why did I tell you this story again? What did you ask? Ah, yes. You wanted to know what your name meant. Honestly, I'm surprised I never told you before, and I apologize. Thank you for listening to me ramble again anyways. I know you've heard it dozens of times already, and although the memories hurt, the worst thing I can do is forget. And as for your name, it was actually Peter that asked me if I had given you one yet, a few weeks after the death of Crochal. Coletta and I never did decide on one, and your mother and father passed away so soon after your egg was laid. Normally you wouldn't be given a name until you hatched. But as I looked down at your egg, perfect, pristine, uncracked, unshattered, I decided on a name. Kias. Hope.